Well, we are at the end of day 4 of Holiday Club in a Box, and my goodness me, it's been a warm day, hasn't it? Did you manage to get out and go and do some foraging? There are loads of blackberries I've seen around in lots of different places, actually, and some of them are tasting really quite lovely. So if you manage to find some of them, or maybe something else, we would love to see a picture of what you've made. Or maybe you found something and you've been able to make some kind of special thing out of them. Like if you collected a lot of blackberries, maybe you've had a go at trying to make something like a blackberry crumble, maybe with some apples as well. That's always a good idea. And once again, our story for today has been another story about food, but also another miracle, God providing food for his people in the middle of absolutely nowhere. The desert is not the normal place to find food. It's not just lying around. You can't just pop down to the shops to get some, as the people knew, but God provided them with enough food to eat for the whole time they were out in the desert. And that made me think about a story from Jesus' life where something very similar happens. There is a story about Jesus being in the desert, being in the wilderness for 40 days, but he's there and he doesn't eat a thing, nothing for 40 days. I can't even begin to imagine that. If I go more than 4 hours without eating, my tummy starts to grumble. So 40 days is a long time. But there is another story as well. So why don't we have a think about that, and then we'll come back here in a little bit. And this story about Jesus takes place in an area that's a little bit of a wilderness. I'm in my study at the moment, and it's not really a wilderness in here. So let's go and find somewhere that's a little bit more wild. So Jesus has spent the day teaching and traveling around, and not only has he got his friends, the disciples, with him, but there is a massive crowd that's followed him. And it doesn't say how many people there were in total, but it says there were at least 5,000 men. So if they've got their wives and their children there, we're probably talking at least 15,000. But that is a huge number of people, and it's coming to the end of the day. It's evening time, they're nowhere near town, and everyone's getting quite hungry. And rather than sending them away, Jesus says to the disciples, we're going to feed them. What have we got? And so the disciples have an ask around, and all they manage to produce are 5 small loaves of bread and 2 fish. So that's 5 small loaves of bread and 2 fish for over 15,000 people. Now, I did maths to 6th form level. I have a maths A level. Even I know that that just doesn't work. Everyone is going to have like the tiniest amount and still be complaining that they're hungry. But what does Jesus do? Well, Jesus takes what they've got, that really seemingly very small amount, and he prays to God. He thanks God for providing what it is that they've got there. And then once he's prayed and thanked God, he starts tearing up the bread, dividing up the fish, and gives it to his disciples to give out to everyone. And do you know what happens? It says that everyone ate until they were full. So not just had like a teeny amount. They ate until they were full. And then afterwards, they picked up 7 basketfuls of leftovers. That's insane. From 5 loaves and 2 fish. That's incredible. It's just as amazing as God providing food for the Israelites wandering out in the desert. Jesus does exactly the same thing. He takes seemingly nothing and feeds an entire crowd when they couldn't do it for themselves. How awesome is that? Again, we had another story where Jesus is able to do something that God could do. So what's this telling us? Well, it's either telling us that Jesus is someone who is just really special and is maybe a little bit like a magician, where he can do things that you can't really explain, but there has to be like a trick to them so that anyone can do them. Or the other explanation is that actually Jesus is God. And as we go through the Bible, as you read it, time and time again, people say that Jesus isn't just an amazing guy. He's not just a wonderful teacher, and he's not just someone that does miracles. Actually, he is God, God in a body like us. And tomorrow, as we come to our final day of Holiday Club in a Box, we're going to hear about a way that Jesus is also like God, but not because he does something special. In fact, he does something that lots of us could do. As a parent, I do it a lot. I won't tell you what that is. We'll come back to that tomorrow. But there is one wonderful thing that Jesus has done for us because he is both human and because he is God. And we'll have a think about that tomorrow. So I will leave you in suspense with that. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evenings. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for our final day of Holiday Club in a Box. It's going to be a good one. See you then.